expected to testify later this morning before the Republican-led House Judiciary Committee.
I wonder what pasture he will walk off into.
I don't know.
Just kind of wander off and say, well, you know, and Joe Biden, I noticed he didn't really tie his tie well. The tie knot suggested that maybe he has arthritis in his left thumb.
Where are you going with this?
I'm just saying this guy says such random shit about
Joe, stop.
He's a kindly old man who could not remember his son's birthday. Like, he wandered off into a pasture here and, you know, maybe Arnold the Pig led him there. I don't know. No, you should apologize for her because
I shouldn't have asked.
I don't know exactly. Like, does he hope he gets a judgeship? I think he does. Yeah. I think he hopes he gets a judgeship. If Donald Trump gets elected again, he's trying out because he humiliated himself with that display.
Jackie Alamany has actual reporting on this. So let's go to her.
Let's do that
hopefully she will not have a foul mouth.
You've never hung out with Jackie Alamany when she gets mad. Because let me tell you something.
Well,
you ever see her on a basketball court, Nika?
No, I know.
Whoa.
She does have a temper.
Yeah.
Ask
You don't want to see me mad.
Okay.
No.
Continue. Jackie, so what's going on with this guy?
Well, we are going to hear from Robert Hur today on Capitol Hill, whom Democrats and Republicans both have some issues with, although very different issues. But we should really start this conversation with the fact that Robert Hur ultimately concluded that there were no criminal charges warranted in President Biden's classified documents case, that essentially he had found that Biden willfully did retain some sensitive information, but that it was not enough to establish Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. But the big issues, obviously, that Republicans have had with Robert Hur's report, which was essentially a declination memo where Hur felt like he needed to establish why he did not pursue charges against Biden, was some of the, as Democrats view it, gratuitous and elaborate digs at Biden's memory and mental faculties. Hur went into extensive detail about Biden being unable to remember specific details during his interview with the president. Biden's aides have said that this interview that took place, which was several hours long, happened in the aftermath of the October 7th attack. And it's also important to note that there are many witnesses across the board, across many administrations, who have trouble remembering information about something that happened several years ago. Biden was asked about, essentially retaining documents, again, not willfully, after his vice presidency. And Republicans are probably going to try to hammer and press her for why he didn't ultimately charge Biden, especially in comparison to former President Donald Trump, who's obviously facing extensive criminal charges. But Hur does note in that report, which he is expected to underscore, that there are serious material differences between the Trump case and the Biden case, that Biden, at the end of the day, cooperated and that the people around him cooperated with the Justice Department's investigation into the classified documents, and former President Trump obviously didn't, and then also in the process committed obstruction and enlisted other people to destroy and hide evidence.
So our friends at Playbook got an advance copy of Hur's prepared testimony, which is set to deliver in a short time, and he defends his decision to include those comments about the president's memory. I'll just read a little. He says, "For that reason, I had to consider the president's memory and overall mental state and how a jury likely would perceive his memory and mental state at a trial." He says, "I did not sanitize my explanation, nor did I disparage the president unfairly," is what Robert Hur says. But Eugene Robinson, the White House feels really good post-State of the Union. They felt like they addressed this issue of the president's age and mental fitness for the job. They're not thrilled to have this come up again today, although they feel like they've already sort of mitigated some of the possible damage here because the president was so strong the other night. We should note Robert Hur, no longer an employee of the DOJ, so he's not bound by some of the constraints that a DOJ employee would have. He potentially has the freedom to editorialize more than a special counsel normally would. And the White House has prepared a rapid response room. We'll be hearing from them a lot today. So give us your expectations of what will happen today, and particularly on the political fallout.
I have no idea what Hur is going to say. Which way he's going to go. Is he going to go deeper into this sort of fantasy world he created in the report, or is he going to pull back from that, and we'll have to see. Politically, I think, from the White House point of view, they would be very happy that if this has to happen, it happens in the wake of the State of the Union address. As you noted, President Biden and his team believe they put a lot of the, doddering old man kind of trope to rest with that speech, and with the appearances and the ads that he's done since, and so I think they believe they can handle that. I do have a question for Jackie about her and specifically in his report. At the beginning of the report, in the summary, he says that Biden willfully withheld these documents, and then later in the report, I believe in a footnote, he says, well, actually, we don't have proof that he willfully did this. Will he be asked to clarify that, and what do you think he's going to say?
Yeah, I think he's going to have to address this sort of confusing manner that he drafted the report in at the top of his hearing today. I mean, this is going to be a priority for Democrats to have him clarify that in his own words. And I think he's probably going to go into detail about this episode in 2017 about a recording that her and Justice Department investigators obtained with his biographer, who at the time Biden was going back and forth sharing information with. But at the end of the day, after all was said and done, and they reviewed the conversations that were taking place between Biden and his biographer at the time, they were able to sort of discern that the materials and what was being discussed was actually something that Biden was not willfully disclosing and did not necessarily know. They were not able to establish that he knew that it was sensitive information and that he was disclosing anything that was essentially problematic to U.S. national security.
Yeah, and, again, I mean, the inconsistency there just shows bad faith. They put it up front that it was willful, and then at the end you go to a footnote that says we don't have any evidence that what he did was willful. And whatever he says today is going to be ineffective because he painted Joe Biden as a doddering old man who couldn't remember anything. Over 30 million people saw Joe Biden stick it to the Republicans, like confront the Republicans, go back and forth with the Republicans. No doddering old man. In fact, I don't think most people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, or 60s could have done that on that big of a stage, knowing that 31 million people were watching you. So it's preposterous what he said. He humiliated himself. Let's see how much more he wants to humiliate himself today.
We shall see. The Washington Post, Eugene Robinson and Jackie Alamany, thank you both very much for being on this morning.